I'm saying is, when does the athlete say, okay, I have a platform, and I get how you use your platform. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong or right, but you actually have finances that can change so many communities.
Yeah.
But you have 12 guys.
Welcome to Black on Black. Today we have Noah and Keisha.
Thanks for having myself, and I appreciate the invite. It's been an honor just to come out and see if I can share some ideas.
Likewise, same here. Honored to be here. Thanks for having us here be a part.
You're welcome. I guess we could just start off with just introducing yourselves, telling a little bit about your organization and how you got started.
Sure. All right. So I'm Keisha Dennis. I'm the founder and CEO of The Elephant in the Room, Inc. It's actually a mental health nonprofit. We've been around since 2017, and our goal is pretty much to erase the stigma that's associated with mental health, try to get people to talk about mental health. I honestly, personally feel like the more that people discuss the topic, the easier it is for the stigma to, be eradicated. And the organization that was started, a lot of people ask me, like, are you a psychologist or a therapist or something? And I'm like, no, however, I'm human. So it was basically just based on personal interest in the topic. I suffered from anxiety as a teenager, and it was something that we really didn't talk about back then, especially not in the African American community. So as years went on, I knew that this was something that I really wanted to do. So I went ahead and jumped out there, and I'm very, very glad that I did, because I've never been happier to really help people and keep those conversations going.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Noah, what about you?
So, Noah Brown, founder of NoBro. I didn't know a name. I was trying to look for something as far as in the age group. You hear YOLO and think of Google, Yahoo, Fubu, like all these different kind of quick hitters. And so I just took a couple of letters out of my name. My name is Noah Brown, so I just took a couple of letters out, so hopefully it'll be easy to remember. And what it was is that in my journey, I was a professional athlete before I got into my second half of life and career. And it was a situation from people who come from certain communities. Is it excuses or exposure? And that's probably that fork in the road that is the time that everyone's going to come to, where are we making excuses, or in fact we just don't have exposure to it. And so I said, okay, how can I expose a lot of individuals that were very similar to my upbringing? How can I expose them to that and get them to want to come out and be a part of it? And because of my background in basketball, as I said, if I told them I was just going to teach life skills, financial literacy, all this term insurance, different types of life insurance policies, it's going to be boring. But if I put the basketball with it and say, hey, here's our morning sessions, we're going to train, I'm going to help throughout with the staff that I have, develop you into a professional athlete, to whatever level is going to be based on your talent. I'll do my best to try to get you contracts because of my relationships. It's only on the one condition. Well, more than one, but here's the primary one, is that you have to come to class at night. And you have to learn these things, so when this ball stops bouncing, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, you'll now at least have some exposure to try to eliminate that excuse in hopes that can change the trajectory of your life when basketball is finished. So that's kind of how it just literally came to fruition. I wish someone had it whenever I was around. And so I was like, well, let me just go ahead and pay it to the next group to come through. It's kind of, it just happened organically like that.
That was amazing. Well, since we're all on the topic of what's next in the world, and we're closer to the end of the year, I thought it would be kind of fun to go around and ask you guys, what was your favorite moment of 2020?
I'm always leaning towards the lady
No,
first.
that's cool. I'm just thinking, favorite moment of 2020? Gosh,
You talking about moment as in society, or moment for yourself personally?
Let's do both. How about that?
Okay. I don't know, 2020 was so interesting. I'll be honest and say this. I do feel like, yes, 2020 may have been not the normal year that we experienced, but I do feel like, in my opinion, it gave people a chance to sit down and kind of really think about who they really are as a person, and really got a chance to figure themselves out or work on themselves personally, or connect with someone that you haven't connected with because you've been so consumed and so busy in life. It got people thinking outside of the box. I think a lot of people that I know that wanted to start that business or wanted to do this venture, I think 2020 they started so many. So I think that was pretty dope this year. And although I'm really sad about not traveling, I do feel like Black people, I feel like I know the circumstances were really bad, but I feel like Black people really came together this year.
Yeah.
I think they came together, they focused on the bigger picture, and I think they had a chance to like form a plan.
Yeah.
So I think I did get that much for 2020.
It took a long time too.
A long time.
It really did.
And I think, honestly, like I said, if people were busy and working and stuff, they would have been too busy to actually really do something or, really get out there and be impactful in all these other ways. So I think, everything was aligned the way it was supposed to be.
I think me on the piggyback, the more I 100% agree, more on a personal side was I have been fortunate that I have a good handful of friends that are in the medical space. And I'm not a military guy, I don't come from a military family, so I haven't been exposed to that type of warfare where people are on the front line in some life and death situation. And so to kind of watch them, not from afar, but right up close when kind of everything hit, with the hospitals getting just so full, and realizing these are human beings that, although they have a family, kids, all that stuff, they have to really go every day in hopes that when they come home, because this is unknown what's going on, that they don't bring something back to a house that can impact family members, whether it's parents or cousins, nieces, nephews, children, because it was so unknown. So I would say from that, it was a moment to be able to have a lot more understanding and respect for the medical field, and realizing those that signed up for that from a perspective of going to school and studying and passing exams, there was probably no protocols for this. But to see the ones that were able to survive that, as keep moving on and every day and putting themselves at risk, friends coming home and having to take all their clothes off before they come in the house, get sprayed down by a water hose, and have to turn around the next day and go do that again and have supportive wives or supportive husbands. I just think that was an impactful moment to just watch on a smaller scale, but realize that was a global situation. Even though I may not know doctors in France or doctors in England, but I got to see that from New York, from Michigan to here in Georgia, to see my friends that were doing that, realizing that was 10, 15, 20-fold all throughout the world of these individuals putting their life on the line for us, so to speak.
Yeah, because it's like, this was a moment that everybody in the world was literally going through the same thing. It wasn't like this country's going through this or that country. We're all feeling this awkward stage that we've never experienced. So everybody's just like, what is this?
I think people did have a new appreciation for people in the medical field.
Right.
You never realize, like, wow, they really are like lifesavers, literally.
Yeah.
People in the food industry, these sanitation workers, they all put their lives on the line for us. So.
Yeah. And there was no working from home for them.
No.
They were on the front
They didn't
line.
work from home.
And not only are you going, you're putting in, instead of 12-hour, 13-hour days. I mean, some of my friends, they were coming in, leaving at 6, coming in, and just staying off the clock. as human beings, just because it was the right thing to do with your staff, that it humbles me.
How do you guys feel about this whole movement of black on black, like black owning business supporting blacks?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think prior to this whole movement thing, I was aware of black-owned businesses,
same.
and so, you know, I don't put a huge emphasis on it, and I try to support black-owned businesses. I support whatever is, I guess, conducive to my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm big on customer service. I'm big on customer satisfaction, service recovery. And so I definitely support in any way possible. But for me, I don't think I'm just really like hopping on this wave. And I do know that much because a friend of mine texted me yesterday. It was like, we were having wine and I was drinking this bottle of wine. And then she was like, oh, well, do you know, a friend of mine sent me a list of 17 black-owned wines. And I was just like, okay, you know, I'll try it out, you know. But I'm still gonna drink this wine right here. But the next time I do go to the store, I will try it out. And if it's a brand that I genuinely really do like, I will definitely support the brand. You know, I'm all for supporting black people.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm gonna take you guys back. Growing up, did you ever feel like you got a lot of support from your community? Because there's always that stigma of why aren't black people supporting each other and why are we bashing each other? So what is your take on that? Do you feel like you were growing up in a very supportive community where, you know, you were able to dream, you know?
Honestly, the way that I was raised and grew up, I didn't have that issue or anything.
Yeah.
Like my family was supportive. Honestly, they sold me a dream, to be real.
Yeah.
I thought that once I went to school and I got out of school, I was gonna be rich and all this stuff was just gonna naturally come.
Yeah.
But I mean, they painted a great picture, and this is, you know, I can only just speak from my family. But I have really, really great friends and people that are around me now. I grew up with great supporters. People have always been helpful, and when I say, you know, a lot of people question whether or not, like, oh, well, you know, my friends, they may not support me, they're not doing this, but to me, I look at support in many different ways. Someone may not be able to buy your t-shirts that you're selling, however, they're reposting and they're sharing and referring it to other people. That's a level of support for me. And somebody may not be able to buy your lipstick brand, however, that other friend of yours is going to be at your house helping you do the packaging, helping you come up with marketing materials. To me, that is also support. So I look at support in many different ways, and I can honestly and truly say that everyone that's around me and then the way that I grew up, people have always supported.
I think, so mine's going to be a lot more complex due to the fact that I'm from a mixed race environment, right? So not even just in my household, but in the community I was raised in. If you were of one race, I mean, obviously you were part of the human race, but if you were of one race, then you were the anomaly. So I went to school with people that were half Venezuelan, half Mexican, half Filipino, half black, half white, all these different things. In my case, my mother's French and Argentinian and Mexican, and my dad is black. So when you grow up in those environments, you really don't fit in one way or the other. Because at that time in the 80s and early 90s, especially in the South, I mean, everything was black and white, right? So I wasn't black enough to be black from their perspective. I spoke a certain way, all these cliches that you get, a certain hair texture, you know, all that kind of stuff that gets kind of passed down through generations. But my shade tone was dark enough that if I was in a different crowd, then you know I'm not. The questions are going to come eventually as well. So as far as family support, it's always been there. As far as trying to find the pockets of life that you kind of sort of feel connected to just from grassroots up, that's I think if you sit and talk with a lot of people that have upbringings very similar as far as just a couple races in the household, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and I will say this in a light of just love.
Yeah.
I've had more challenges in my own Black community than I had in any other communities of being accepted.
I actually heard that before
Oh,
from
yeah.
another one of my friends who
Yeah.
says literally the same exact thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So as far as finding the identity was always from my just foundation and fundamentals.
Yeah.
So whether I'm in England or China or North Carolina or Georgia, I'm gonna be who I am. Now things would change as far as I'll develop and add additional things to my life through experiences,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna change the core of who I am as an individual.
Yeah.
Like, that's already in me.
Yeah.
And the more people you hang out with, whether it's countries, cities, states,
Yeah.
you're always going to learn. People are always influencing each other.
Yeah.
And so if you expose, just if you take the internet, right? If you're on social media and you click on similar things all the time, it's going to echo those exact same things to you. And so you're not really exposing yourself, even though you have all this information you can expose yourself to, but you're only clicking on these particular sectors.
Yeah.
You're only getting that same information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have all these opportunities to go click on a whole different industry, a whole different sector, a whole different information, and that will bring you now so
It's
many
all
things that will
there.
add to you who you are.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of you're intentional with that or not. It's a lot easier now than what it was. You don't have to go to Europe to start figuring out how to dress or
Yeah.
what your styles are. Yeah, you just go right
Everything's at your fingertips.
fingertips.
And I think it's the same way with even like the people that you associate yourself with, like your circle. It's like,
Right.
okay, for me, I don't like to be the smartest person in my circle. I want to be able to learn and grow from someone, and I like to connect with other people in different states, see how they do things, and get ideas, and be able to bounce things off each other. And you end up making some great connections and learning a lot from someone of a different, culture. So, even when I go out of town and I travel, I am not going to a lot of the tourist areas. I want the local food. I want the local atmosphere. Like, take me there. Sometimes I'm like, are you really going to go there? Yes. So, it's...
That's a gift. So when I go to Europe, when I do my camps, we'll take sometimes through USA Select 25, 40 young men over from the ages of like 21 to 26, right? Here they are in Norway or London or any of these places, and they're looking for a Nike outlet in McDonald's. Think about how laughable that is. But the thing is, they don't know.
Yes,
And you
they're
just
not
sit
exposed to it.
yeah, and you sit them down and you say, listen, you just traveled all the way across a pond,
Yeah. Not everybody gets to do
ocean,
That's
to
true.
be in London and have the fish and chips that you read about or hear about in a movie, and you're choosing McDonald's. The Nike outlet, I get it. Nike's global, but go visit some stores that you may not ever walk into. There's a local person here that created something from ground up and just kind of go back home with something new. Oh yeah.
Explore
Their
it.
style and everything is just so different.
Yeah.
But when you do open yourself up, it's kind of like the old saying, your mind is like a parachute, it only works when it's open. You do it, and then all of a sudden it's like you get that bug, and
You can't stop exploring.
There you go.
Different
you
avenues.
become very inquisitive.
When was the earliest you learned about financial?
For me, I'm not gonna say that I learned it at a really young age. However, I do remember my dad always kind of saying, make sure you have money in the bank. And I say it all the time, even to my brother now. Sometimes we might joke and say, money in the bank. He say it all the time. And he opened his bank accounts when we were younger. My mom opened his bank accounts. We had little allowances, and he taught us certain things to do with the money. But as far as deep financial and budgeting, I probably didn't learn that until I moved out on my own and had to pay bills.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest, it wasn't something that we learned in school. It wasn't something that we talked about amongst our friends.
No.
The same way I always feel like financial literacy and mental health, I feel like those are topics in schools that definitely just need more attention than me learning about who knows, because I probably haven't used it that much, but some life skills, and with financial literacy being one, of course.
I mean, so similar, there wasn't a topic in the household. Money was scarce, right? So it was one of those things where you just try to figure out how to get through the month. Forget about retirement accounts and having those discussions and Social Security and things like that. It's where you really understood the language and understood the system that is in play to be able to participate. Because you have to know the system to participate in the language, right? Or you just kind of float. And played basketball, did very well financially, and I remember finally getting on a team where you had the guys that were 4 or 5 years older than me, where I'm like, okay, let me pick their brain, and hey, I'm making this kind of money, what should I do? And it was always either cars or rims, you know, just things that I knew without knowing that can't be what I'm putting my legs through to do, right? And so I ended up meeting a guy at 29, 30 years old, real sharp guy. Thought he was a coach of some sort, but the way he was talking and the way he moved, you could just tell he was very successful. And successful from a lot of perspectives. He had the wife, the kids, the house, car was nice, clean, but he didn't care about the money. So it was a different movement. And I remember I couldn't shake him for about 6 or 7 months out of my mind. I called him back one day and I asked him if I could come hang out with him. Hung out with him for 4 days. He told me to come up and hang out for 4 days. I had 10 contracts at the time. He was ready to go play. And those 4 days, to this day, he and I worked together. That was 8.5 years ago. So I was 31 when I sat in his office. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness, but I did exactly what Will Smith did. That's my actual career, is I work in the financial markets, obviously remotely trading and stuff with the stock exchange and ETFs and stuff like that, but it was through him. He ended up teaching me. I wanted to know before I left, and in return, I'm like, man, I need to learn this information not just for me, but then be able to pass it down and be able to help people. And then I realized, like, man, if I get licensed and qualified, I could make a living being able to really educate and try to really be intentional of educating, my communities. It may not be able to sit down with someone at these big mega house firms where they might not have the liquidity to open those accounts, but it's the information that it might not even be able to make a significant impact in the life of someone that's 65, right? Because all their earning years are finished, but they can pass that down to their next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation. Or even if it's just for them to save a buck or two, that's still a bit beneficial for someone in that age bracket if they don't really live in high needs life, so to speak.
Chidi just walked in, and hi, thank you for coming. We love that you're here with us today.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, do you mind just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on?
Definitely. So my name is Chidiebere Kalu, and I am the head of product at Greenwood. So Greenwood is a bank that is geared towards the Black and Latinx community. So before I got my start at Greenwood, I co-founded and led the technology vertical for a startup by the name of Look Live. So what we did was we tagged and identified what your favorite celebrity and influencer was wearing, then we showed you where to find it. If you couldn't afford the actual item, we gave you more affordable options, right? So grew that to like 1 million users a month. We went to Y Combinator, so that was really exciting. Did that for about 4.5, 5 years. And then recently transitioned to Greenwood. And Greenwood's exciting, right? Our founders, Ambassador Young, Killer Mike, Ryan Glover, right? They came together with this amazing idea, something that we all need, right? Because banking within our communities there's been friction there because it was never truly built for us, right? So now we've launched Greenwood, right? We've launched the idea of Greenwood, and then inside of a week we were able to grow to about 100K, and now we're marching towards 250K. So really exciting, and I'm just really happy to be here to share what I know. So.
Oh, nice. Love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so 2020's been crazy, right?
Yes.
So we asked everybody what their favorite Black moment was of 2020.
black moment?
Yeah.
Man, I gotta think about that. I don't know. Actually, everybody waking up to the fact that therapy's good for you. That was 2020.
Yeah.
It was a big case of therapy
Yeah.
for everybody. And finally we're ripping off like the curse of like, oh, it's taboo to go to a therapist or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've seen more and more brothers, like my friends and even myself, go to therapy.
Okay.
So
Yes,
yeah.
the therapy.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh, and plants. Everybody's been on that plant wave. Have you
Yes.
guys seen
Yo,
that?
I was planting with my mom.
I bought two, and I take them out to get their sun
Yes.
and water. I'm like, dang.
Yes, I'm a plant mama 3.
Therapeutic. It's
Yes.
therapeutic. Yeah.
Yes. So, back to financial literacy. We were talking on that subject. Chidi, were you exposed to a lot of financial literacy growing up? And when was your first, taste of it?
Financial literacy for me was my parents. Like, you're like, Mom, like I saved up money. I'm about to go buy this. And
Yeah.
She said, and who told you why? and who told you so, right? So that was a whole bunch of like what my literacy was.
Yeah.
You know, like save your money so you can go spend it on school and nothing else. So even in school, like we didn't really get financial literacy, right? Like you just had enough money to get what you needed to get, and you keep pushing, you figure out the rest later, right?
Yeah.
But no, we didn't. I didn't really see any financial literacy. I mean, even up until like my collegiate years, just didn't really hear about financial literacy. So it's kind of funny that I'm in finance now, but it's actually good because like I'm a product of like our generation that didn't receive it, right? And now I know the things I need that other people probably need as well. So
Yeah. That's good, because then you can pass it on to everybody. I feel like I'm at a point, because I'm 25 right now.
Okay.
And I'm just now getting to that point where I'm just
Welcome
like,
to the world.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I actually need to save my money. Like, it's just not for, generational wealth, but it's also,
Just to live, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for, like, me, it's like, say your car breaks down tomorrow.
Man.
What are you
don't
going
say
to do?
that.
I'm just an example.
No, it's real. No, it's
And
real.
then you have to start adding the layers to it, where you have that sector of saving money, but now how you turn $1 into two, to
Exactly.
4, 4 to 8.
Exactly.
Like you have to just keep getting on, where now you have to learn how to create kids and grandkids out of money.
Yeah.
And that's the phases that
Yeah.
you really,
And people are really
you gotta lock in on.
You gotta lock in, right,
Yeah.
right.
People are really good at it too, and it's
Yeah.
just mind blowing to see how advanced like you can get with your literacy.
I think when it comes to financial literacy, like what's most important is aligning yourself with somebody that knows what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't get me wrong, you can read a book, figure it out for yourself, but we live in a world where people are so accessible, right? The most accessible
Yes.
application is what? Clubhouse, right? Like you can literally be right next to Joe Budden or whomever in that space. So I think aligning yourself with a mentor to learn like those core competencies in order to, like you say, turn that $2 into 4 to 8, right? Like you need to align yourself with somebody.
Yeah.
Just even that thing like that. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Like start learning the kind of compound thing. Sorry, I know I interjected.
No, exactly. I agree.
That's real. So all you guys have a business, right? So what is some advice that you guys would probably give to your younger self or a younger inspired entrepreneur?
I guess for me, I just knew like if I was gonna have a business, this is just my personal preference. I wanted to be something that I was truly passionate about, because I've noticed that the more passion I have behind my business, it doesn't really feel like work, not to me. Like I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm doing what I really love doing, because I worked in corporate America. I've been the director level, but used my master's for something, and literally after that, I've not been happier since I started my own business.
Yeah.
And I think we hear it when you're younger, like follow your dreams and you can be anybody that you want to be. However, I think that we really need to like take heed to those conversations, because it really is true. And if that's what we want to do and be what we want to be and focus on what we want to really get out of life and how you want to leave your legacy and be impactful with other people, I think we have to be really intentional with that. I do want to commend like the millennials or Gen Zs or whatever.
Yeah.
But they are relentless, and they, you know, like when I was growing up, it's like, okay, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna do this, you're gonna go work for this company, you're gonna be there, you're gonna try to do this, and then, you know, you're gonna have a career in whatever. I have so many friends and so many younger, you know, people that are like, you know what? I'd rather learn how to do, I want to start my own photography studio, and I want to build something that no one's done before. I want to host this, or I want to be in the creative industry. I'm really into music, or I really am an artist to the point where I like to draw cars, and I want to have my own company where I, you know, like the car business, and you don't realize how successful that you can be and still be passionate at something. So I just think at my younger self, I would have and still would say, like, really focus on what it is that you want to be in life. I just think you'll be the most happiest and satisfied.
I think to my younger self, it would be a couple of things. Number one is to read more often. I think we definitely should read a lot. I'm an avid reader in my 20s and 30s, but I look back and I know if the teacher didn't tell me to do it, I wasn't going to read it, right? And even then, I was going to skim through it. Being able to read that and explore where your mind takes you through someone else's experiences, I think, especially those that come from communities that might not be a lot of money, when you're going on vacations and stuff like that, to get exposed to things. I think it opens your mind up, and whether it's that one, read. Obviously, finding a passion. If you're not passionate about something, it's just a matter of time. Life in general is an ebb and flow. And if you're not passionate about something, the minute a storm comes, you're probably going to quit. We spoke about this earlier. You're probably going to quit or figure out why it's not going to work, right? And then I would say become very curious. Like just curious. I mean, obviously of good things and good things and good things. And I think by doing all that, you will attract people in your life that will now be able to connect with you, right? You can have different dialogues about different things, but I do think it's kind of like that old saying. I used to think growing up that you have to pursue success and pursue. And I realized it's like, no, if you just work on yourself, give your gift to the world, you're going to attract the people to you. The next person who might have the next idea to add to yours, or the funding to yours, or the support that you need, or the media that you need. That's just going to come. And I think if I can do it all over again, I wouldn't change anything, but I would add that at a younger age, because you get it faster.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think for me, the first thing I would say is like, respect your parents, but do you. Right? Respect your peoples, just do you, you know, because as you get older, you realize like, yo, they can't run your life, they can't control your happiness, they can't control anything, you know, and I think that was really important for me because, you know, I mean, as an African kid, it's like doctor, engineer, lawyer. And, you know, if you don't fit within that scope, like music doesn't matter, art doesn't matter, like all these other creative aspects of yourself kind of don't matter sometimes, but those creative things are the things that can take your idea to the next level, right? So yeah, definitely do you, but do it with respect, obviously. Secondarily, like my brother said, read. Right? I didn't read growing up, I'm not gonna lie.
Not as much, I didn't.
I played outside.
But I picked up a lot of books here recently.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's been helpful. And I think the book that I read that I love the most is The Secret.
The Secret was that about?
Oh yeah, my mom has that book.
It literally is the secret to life.
Wow. Who's that by?
What's his name?
It's It's actually, it's on Netflix too. Don't Netflix.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't
It's a movie. Don't watch the movie.
The books are always better.
The book is
and then
better.
watch
the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pass the book.
Yeah.
I'll text it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to read, and then if you have an idea, like just start, right? Even if you don't know the language, get to the prototype, right? Just get to an MVP, something really janky, right? But just keep going,
Yeah.
right? And I would say this to everybody, like, yo, I promise you, that party is not better than the party that could be, right?
That's a good one.
That
That's a
party,
gem.
you know? So, I promise you, you grind, you do what you want, the next party will be so much better, I promise. So, yeah, that's what I would do, yeah.
You know something else that I noticed, that if I was younger, even like in school, like in college, you know, I went to school, I did what I was supposed to do, but I feel like now it's really important to develop relationships with people, connect with people.
Yeah.
If I would have known a long time ago, like connections are way more important, and your relationships with people that you like meet along your journey, they're far more important and would help you a lifetime. So.
Agreed. Man, piggyback off that. So
Yeah, go for it.
that was the aha moment. I mean, I was fortunate. I played sports, so my education was paid for. But when I got into the financial world, I do a lot of 529 plans for clients, where I see how much the university costs. I never knew, because I just signed my name on the contract and you go to school. And I'm like, wow. But it's one of those conversations you start having with parents where you say, a degree is a degree to an extent, right? There's so many other qualifications that are beyond just getting a degree. But if you're gonna use that hard-earned money to do something, even besides of what field you're gonna get into, you're paying for the network.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So if you are someone who likes tech, the Georgia Tech price tag is because now you're in a room with future individuals that have sold, or present individuals that have sold companies from their dorm room and made $200 and something million or $30 million. And so you have to kind of look at that and see it for what it is, and to each its own. But to say, okay, am I going to pay this money? I'm going to pay this money regardless if you do. Is it better to add another zero or another 5,000 or 10,000 to now, like, I'm going to go get a degree from this network? And I know there's a lot of CEOs coming out of there. There's a certain space that when I say, oh, I graduated from Tech, or when I graduated from Georgia State, or whatever university, Morehouse, there's all these different things that just have a different name to it with that network. So, I mean, that's what the part of when she was saying is capital relationships. Is what that's not tangible, but that relationship can open up so many doors for you with just a phone call, where you're not even sending your resume to anybody. You're just showing up.
I've always said that about college. A lot of people are like, oh, you know, school is not for me, school's not for me. Okay, that's great now, but to be honest, I don't think school is really, it's not about, oh, well, I finished, and I aced this test, and I've done this, and blah, blah, blah. I think school is really about teaching you life lessons about relationships. It's also teaching you a lesson about identifying who you are as a person. You're not living in your house anymore. So a lot of times when I talk to some of the high school kids, and they're excited to go to school because they're like, oh, I get to be on my own and blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times people don't prepare them that you may go through an identity crisis because you've been living under a roof and your parents have been telling you this. But then when you get out there, you're like, all right, socially, which group of friends am I going to be around? Who am I going to be? And it's important to develop those relationships. And like you said, like if you're into tech, like boom, there you have it, you know? So yeah, I just think college is really more about like getting through it. It's a challenge to get through it, not necessarily the work, because the work will be there.
But I do think, as far as the part you were saying, just but still respecting, but do you, is there has to be a shift in your world where you realize you're an adult, when you become the educator of your parents. You have to, like, because they're coming from a generation they were educated from, so that we only know what we know, right? And my wife is foreign, so I get it, as in, dad's a doctor, dad's an engineer, brother's an engineer. It's like, these are the categories you go into. But there comes a time in life where if you are being successful and you have the passion and the drive and you're producing in those realms, I do think parents would listen.
Yeah.
Now it's a matter of can you educate them in a way to learn these things, because that wasn't maybe their environment that they came from the generation before. It wasn't about networking. It literally was about, you go get this job, you're going to have a job for the next 30 years of your life, you'll have a pension. Like, life has changed since then. But they're not going to keep up with that. They just know what worked for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's up to us to teach the new space. I mean, I got a brother-in-law who is very, very successful gaming. I mean, you know, he makes over $1 million playing video games.
That's crazy.
No lie, the gaming industry,
It's
it's becoming so.
But you know, the parents probably told their kids, turn that game off. Because in their generation, that didn't do anything for you. You had to go to educate and say, no, look, Chipotle is sponsoring him. Dr. Pepper is sponsoring him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Samsung is sponsoring him. And if you can articulate yourself and show, but you're not just floating, right? You're producing. And you're passionate about what you're doing, and you're able to educate your parents. And all of a sudden, in the family, they're Middle Eastern, and they let them go try it out. And I'm sure they're probably telling the next generation, you guys go play those games. It happened to me with basketball. My dad didn't believe in it. This whole basketball thing. What do you mean you're working on your game? What is that? I need a job. I started working at the age of 12. I walked away at 17 from Walmart, and I said, I gotta go work on my game. My dad choked me out because I came home. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm just being very transparent. And I had to stand up to him eye to eye in a respectful manner, but I think he saw it in the eye that, no, I'm dead serious. But truth be told, he started seeing the letters coming in and started seeing the results in my body build and stuff like that. To the point I had an older brother, but then we had younger siblings that were 7, 8 years younger. By the time I got my scholarship, all of a sudden he was telling them, you guys need to go work on your game. They didn't work at all. They were in the gym because he wanted a scholarship for them to get out of here. Like, you can go better your life if you're good at something. Like, the people will come. And next you know, here came my younger brother playing college basketball. Here came my younger sister playing college basketball. So it's those aha moments where you gotta, but you can't be one of those just talkers. Because that's what everybody's doing. You gotta really know, like, hey, no, this is in me. I've taken time to assess who I am, is who I am in this season. It may not be it's gonna be forever, but in this season in my life, like, this is where I'm at. And I think if you show those traits of discipline, focus, ambition, belief, I do think parents, good parents at least, they're gonna know their kid and know, they can look it in the eyes and know, like, hey, this kid's serious about what they're doing.
Well, guys, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you again for coming and sitting down with us on Black on Black.
Thank you for having us. I enjoyed it. So conversational.
Black, my black so black, I'm black, my skin is so black, I'm rocking that black is black. Rims on this black, wheels in this black, wheel with this black, so